My worst sales job ever, to the point where I wanted to quit sales. So I and if you don't follow the channel and haven't seen some of these videos, just really quick, currently serve as a president, CEO for the organization I run, but my background is up through the sales side to get to where I am. So many years ago, I was a sales rep. I was what was called an account executive at this company. It was in the tech space, if you will. And oh, it's so stereotypical. This was like the late 2000s, and so circa like '08 in there somewhere. And I had just moved to Massachusetts. I had a sales job. Where I came from in New Jersey, and I liked that job. I liked my coworkers. They became some of my best friends, and it wasn't bad. They had some tough moments, but we made it work. So I got this job as a sales rep. I won't say the name of the company because ultimately that company, I think, helped shape who I am today. Unfortunately, and not what to do. So network security is what I had done. And so I had just moved to Massachusetts, or was in the process of moving, and I was looking for a sales job, and I got this interview, and I got the job. And what I remember about it was my in-laws and everybody was like high-fiving me, like so happy for me. And I was kind of like, it's just a sales job, whatever. But they were genuinely happy for me. And I'm smiling about it because it made me feel really good in that moment that people cared about my happiness. And that was really cool. And I actually remember where I was standing, like when people were approaching me in my extended family or my in-laws. But so I got that job, and I was responsible for selling network security solutions or products, whatever you want to say, to new business and basically government, public sector. Oof. And it was basically, it wasn't billed as inside sales because we did travel sometimes, but it was inside sales. My region was at that time, I think it was Texas and Louisiana. At one point, I ultimately had some of Arkansas, and I was responsible, I think, I have to go back, for about 80K of new business a month. So you come in the door, and they gave you like a ramp. You're still responsible for that number, but they like basically subsidized your number for the first, like 100% the first month, 75% the second month, 50% third month, fourth month, you're fully on your own, and you're supposed to be ramped up on all their products and everything. And it's all new business. So once it becomes an existing customer, it gets handed over to the account management team. The only way you would ever get anything is if they added a new product to an existing customer, and the account management team would let you know about it, and like you would count towards your number. But you couldn't count on that. So it was pure cold calling. I sucked at it. I was insecure because very stereotypical cubicle farm where you stand up and you just go like this and you just see cubicles everywhere. So everyone's hearing everybody all day. And it was always, of course, like I felt like when I got on the phone, it was like that minute or so where like it happens to be quiet and everybody can hear me. Oh man, it was awful. And I had gotten good at sales, and that was another video I did where I talk about how I sucked at sales and I got better. So I'd gotten good at sales, but this was more like boiler room like esque. It was don't care like what you got to do. Get them. The whole thing was, I think, to get them to do a virtual demo, and you would then set that up and have a sales engineer sit with you, and he would talk them through like the technical stuff and whatever. And but they wanted you to do 75 minimum dials per day, but you better be around 100. That's ideal. Oh man, like, oh gosh, I was in my early 30s, and I just think sitting at my cubicle, like, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And what I remember is making my dials, and I had, because I was calling schools and local government agencies, I had a finite pool, right? And I tried to organize everything because I basically was trying to understand when all their subscriptions were ending with like our competitors, so I could at least call them back a couple months ahead of time and kind of like start to talk to them about getting a shot at considering us as their renewal comes up. And I remember, if you didn't have like somewhere around 45, 50 dials by lunchtime, you were getting an instant message from the boss, who was like 3 cubicles away, asking you what were you doing all morning. And you could have been on sales demos, like maybe you had a couple schedules in the morning, and which is good because that means you're further along in the sales cycle. And but still, it would always be like, it doesn't matter, you should have come in earlier. Well, my time zone for my customers is an hour behind. That's okay, you can leave voice messages. Like, you need to make that. Okay, so I would start my day. We didn't have to be there at 9, but I'd be there at 8. I would work 8 to 6 every day. It was just, and that's, all day. And it just got so old. And what I remember is, I keep saying that, one time I had this deal, like the way they looked at it is you had your forecasted business for the month, and then what they called upside. So upside was like, it might come in this month. It's probably going to come in the next month, but it's not. There's less degree of certainty there. But in your forecasted business, that better come in. Like, they made it clear that better come in. And oh, by the way, that forecasted business also better about equal your number for the month. And oh man, it was brutal. So one day, I forget the size of the business, and I gotten a verbal like, yeah, we're going forward with what you're doing, or with your company. We just need like a superintendent to sign off and blah blah blah. So I remember like, yes, all right, I'm gonna hit my number this month. And what I remember is it was probably like the springtime or something like that. Like, superintendents aren't around as much because it's like school's out or whatever. And I called. And I just said, oh, is my contact in, who probably was like the chief technology officer or something. Oh yeah, and he would say like, I just need a superintendent to sign off on it. He's out till he's out for the rest of the week. Say it's like a Friday morning or Thursday. Oh, okay. I know you said we were moving forward on this like 2 weeks ago. Is there any chance someone could sign it today? No, he's the only one who can sign for it. It's gonna have to be next week. Okay, all right, great. So in a normal organization, while it would be a bummer not to get that signature so you can get that order to count for that current month, because the next month was starting next week, as a leader myself, like if I was short an overall number, I'd be like, well, okay, I know I'm getting the order next week, so like it's fine. Like, why piss off the customer? So I remember telling my boss, like, hey, this is the deal here. And he just looked at me and said, did you talk to the superintendent's secretary? No. Why don't you call and see if she can sign for it? Okay. So I called. And she's like, no. And he goes, so I, okay, thank you. Get off the phone, tell my boss this. He goes, no, let me call. You can listen in. I'll show you how to do it. It's embarrassing. I mean, again, it's a cube farm. Everyone hears this. He calls, gets the secretary, and she said, oh, someone just called from there. I said no. And then my boss proceeds to go, can you look on his desk to see if it's sitting on his desk? Yes, it's on his desk. Well, can you just sign it then? Or can I have his cell phone number so I can call him so you have permission to sign it? I mean, just total alienate the customer. Then my direct contact as chief technology officer calls me and asks me, what the heck is going on? Why are all these people like, why are your boss like calling my boss and like, this is embarrassing. I don't want to go with the company who's going to be pushy like this. Totally undermining like what we had, the rapport and everything I had built up. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And then when it looked like it was dead in water, my boss said to me, he's like, you better get something on that, off that upside to replace it. You better find that now. And so if you weren't hitting your number, like even if you were just close, like say you're 90, 95%, you had to stay, because we also had an office up in Vancouver, which would be 3 hours behind us. And so if an order came in, you could run it through their finance department and they would book it, right? So if you were short of your number, you had to stay until the evening Vancouver time in case something came in. Now think about it. Schools and local governments, shoot, they're a lot of times done 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're saying you want me to stay to 8 o'clock at night Eastern Standard Time in case a school sends a PO or a government agency? I mean, it was awful. So I remember, like in that case, in that example I just gave you, I remember sitting there until 8 o'clock at night, and I remember at that time I was engaged, and I remember she would say to me, because it was just the two of us, we lived in an apartment, she would say to me, like this was reflecting after I was done with that job, she would say, it used to take you to like basically Saturday night to like de-stress. You used to be so stressed with that job. And I was a sales rep. I was more stressed about that job than really on a day-to-day, my baseline stress was way higher with that job than any executive position I have had. Yeah, you get your stressful moments, but the baseline stress was always here. You'd wake up in the morning and think, here I go again. So I got to the point, they had distributors, and they had some distributor managers, and they had a lot of like internal transfers you could apply for. I was thinking about that, but then we ultimately moved away from that area in Massachusetts and moved onto the Cape, where if you watch this channel, you probably obviously guessed that that's where I am. But we were a good 2 hours away from here, and this is where my girlfriend at the time, or fiance, whatever, was from. So that's why we ended up moving this way, because family was over here. And so I ultimately quit that job. But when I quit, I said, I will never go back to sales. I will never do this again. Like I don't even care if it's like a good, like I was just so burned out, and I had to basically put on a fake facade or lie to customers, and like that ate my insides in and out, because I'm more about building relationships, building a partnership, being a trusted advisor, that kind of thing, building a reputation for the company, a good reputation. This was all the opposite. It was a sweatshop basically, and my boss knew that too, but he just knew how to be good at doing that, being that type of person, and I couldn't. And a lot of the guys that worked there, like I was in my early 30s, as I said, there was guys that were, most of the guys there were like 5 years younger than me, because basically everyone burned out and got out of there. I had moved to the area, so I think for me, I was like, okay, this is good, it's a job, and the commission was pretty good, but you had to like basically lie, cheat, steal to get there. And then on the other side, they probably saw me and thought, oh, you know what, we're going to hire a guy with a little more experience than what we've been, because typically we hire people who are close to being right out of school. So that was a job where I said, I hate sales. And something, I did. I totally hated it at that point. I loathed it. But my next role, where I kind of moved into, like when I found another job, was more of a application driven type sales role, where customers are calling you asking for help, what do I need to do this? What do I need to do that? And that was fun because you're advising them, and then you suddenly you create a raving fan because you help them solve a problem. That's the type of sales I wanted, you know. So, but looking back all these years later, I learned how not to run a sales organization, how not to coach people, how not to behave as leaders and whatnot, and how to create employee loyalty by being supportive of your team, not beating them down. And also looking back, to me, I always thought sales was a means to getting into more business, the management side, right? I talk about this in another video where I always wanted to be like business excites me, like building an organization excites me with good people and raising people up, developing their careers. Like that's so fun and fulfilling for me. And I thought that would be the case. So I wanted to work to get that way. So sales to me was a means to get into the management area. Now I have responsibility of, finance, HR, operations, and it's very fulfilling because you work with different types of people and solve different types of challenges. Well, if you hate sales, I want to hear about it. Or if you are in sales and you have a career in sales, whether it's leadership or it's sales rep, and you've had a point in your career where you hated sales, share it in the comments. I would like to hear about it, and if you hated sales and you're still in sales, I want to know what you did to come back around. I think that's really important, really important. So if you haven't, please like, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Comment, as I said before, and with some interesting comments, perhaps I'll call it out on the next video and we can talk about it in a video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.